Electricity, how does it work? All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Merrimack Planning Board meeting to order for, what is today, Tuesday, February 17th, 18th? Let's begin with our Pledge of Allegiance, since I forgot that last time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Nelson will appoint you in from an alternate to a voting position in for, I guess Mark's spot is as good as any, huh?
Doesn't seem to matter.
In for a voting position with 4 members here. We do have enough to conduct business. It's enough for a quorum. Let's see, our usual announcement to remind everybody that addresses the board, make sure your microphone's turned on and you speak clearly into it so the people preparing the minutes and the folks at home can hear you. Our next planning board meeting after tonight's currently scheduled for March 4th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in this room, Matthew Thornton room. That completes our usual call to order. There are 3 items on a consent agenda for us tonight, which are extension requests, 2 for the Flatley projects and 1 for Patriots Car Wash site plan. What's the will of the board with respect to the consent agenda?
I will move to accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, can't be any discussion on that, so all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? 400 to adopt the consent agenda. Okay, item 3 on our agenda. I apologize if I mispronounce this. I will do my best. Lagoina Nashua Church as the applicant and Premier Commercial Properties LLC as the owner. Conceptual plan to convert a vacant drugstore into a church with associated site improvements. The parcel is located at 420 Daniel Webster Highway in the C2 Commercial Town Center Overlay, Elderly Housing, and Aquifer Conservation Districts. It is tax map 5D-4, lot 3-1, and it is our case PB 2025-4. Colleen, is there anything that we need to hear before we hear from the applicant?
Just a reminder, this is completely conceptual, so no public hearing. Obviously, we can ask questions of the applicant, and that's really it.
All right. Someone here representing the applicant? Come on forward. Grab a seat and settle in. Make sure that microphones are both turned on, and then tell us about the proposal. Introduce yourself as well while we're
Scott Franklin. I'm the realtor that put this proposal together.
Scott?
I'm Felipe. I'm the contractor.
Hi, Felipe. All right, tell us what's being proposed.
So we're looking to convert this drugstore, do an interior fit out, and turn it into a church. It's a great square building. You can, it's great for a fit out in a great location. And yeah, that's the general idea of the project. Do minimal exterior work, painting, logo of the church, that kind of a thing. Not disturbing any of the flow or any of the parking or anything that's going on the outside over there. Keeping it as is, doing most of it in the interior, but just making it church on the outside so that people will know that it's a church. That's basically the project.
Did I pronounce the name of the church correctly?
Lagoina. It's Lake. Little Lake is basically what it is. Yeah.
Lagoina. All right, I'll try that again. Thank you for helping me pronounce it right. Do you know how many parishioners you might have in your church during service and how many parking spaces you'll need?
So typically right now, there's about 120 service right now.
Okay.
We usually have 2 services on Sunday, one at 10 a.m., one at 6 p.m., so that anybody who may work on Sunday morning gets the opportunity to go at night, and anybody who works the night shift gets the opportunity to go in the morning. We expect that to grow, so we'll be looking for an occupancy, total occupancy, between 300 and 400 for the whole space. And what happens with that is our church model, this church model, I go to this church, but not this specific location, to another location. The church motto is once you get to 85% of your capacity, you open another service. So there would be like 2 morning services and then a night service to that. So that's not, over
Okay.
capacity.
But the 300 to 400, when you said the capacity, are you talking about the building capacity from the fire department?
Yes,
Okay,
on a total occupancy load.
okay. So at least conceptually, there could be several hundred people there at one time for a service if the fire
Correct.
department gave you that permission. Do you know how many parking spaces you have that are shown here?
I do not exactly know.
I believe it was upper 200, so like
yeah.
205 to 210, somewhere around there.
Okay. Doesn't look like 205 or 210. Is that the whole site, including the diner and all of that side of things? or-
No, that was just the number that the landlord gave us.
60, 80,
Well, how many are shown on this
it's only
plan?
130.
There's 21 in the long row at the back, so, yeah, I guess, but there could be at least 100 here. I don't know if there's 200, but
All right, maybe I'm getting my numbers
I think
mixed
it's
up. Maybe
105.
there could be.
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
This is conceptual, so tonight it really doesn't matter. When you come back with a formal proposal, that's the concern, is just where you're going to put people to park, and if you have overflow, are they going to park with a parking easement from your neighbors, or park somewhere else and get shuttled over, or just whatever it is that you're going to do to manage the parking. And I would also want to make sure the folks from the MAP 5D4 Lot 3, the little strip mall, especially the diner, they get notice of it and they can come and weigh in, because especially the diner is timed to compete with your morning service.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's solutions to it. It's certainly not an insurmountable obstacle, but I'm sure they would want to make sure their customers had some places to park, and you guys had all the parking spaces that you needed for your services.
And the idea is to obviously 100% be a blessing to the community and not be a burden to what they're doing next door. So we're willing to work out, with what we got. And like I said, our goal would be to have that occupancy number. And, obviously people come in
Yep.
families, 4 per vehicle, but at the end of the day is to get to a consensus to where we can say, like, this is healthy for this area, and then explore that as much as we can.
So in terms of healthy for the area, first, I love the idea of making use of the building. It didn't really look like anybody was rushing in there to do retail in that space, or any other space in the world these days, it seems like. And so the fact that you're gonna, be able to do something with the building, make use of it, is great. I'm also certainly a fan and supporter of churches. I think they're a great addition to the community. I think they are a real blessing to the people around them. I did sort of look into the Lagoina. Is that better?
Yeah.
Church, and it does seem to be very fast growing and a nice environment. So I think that it would be great to have you here in the community. Other than parking, I think the signage, whatever you paint on the building to signify the church, or even if you erected some kind of a sign or steeple or something, if that was in keeping with the religious tenets, no reason to object to that, no reason that would be a problem or anything to be concerned about. It's really, to me, just making sure that you got enough room to put all your people in the parking lot. I can't think of any other reason why we'd care from a planning board standpoint about what you got going on. And it's, in any case, far better than an empty space. So that's my 2 cents in terms of conceptual. I think if you're doing, you mentioned that your evening service was 6:30 p.m. In the wintertime, it might be dark, so site lighting and all that usual stuff. But Rite Aid, this was Rite Aid or CVS?
Rite Aid.
Rite Aid.
They dealt with that when it was a Rite Aid. I mean, they had lighting in their parking lot, and it was relatively recently, at least last 30 years, modern building. It's not sort of an out-of-date site that wasn't originally engineered with all of its water and drainage and all of that. If you do end up short on parking, then snow storage will become an issue. Make sure you're not putting snow in the parking spaces, that you've got some place to push it off of the parking lot or truck it out of there or something. And looks like there's solutions around. There's some perimeter that doesn't seem to have any parking spaces lined up next to it, so you could perhaps push the snow there.
Yeah, and right behind the parking lot is a big forest area that we can just push the snow into the forest.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like there's a lot of room to be able to do that. Is there any use you would make of the drive-through and the canopy thing, or is that just, it's there and you
Probably
leave it?
just extra parking. We're not gonna use the drive-through at all. Just what I would say is actually gonna happen, knowing the church and being a part, is volunteers usually come in 2 hours before service starts to prepare for everybody. I'm assuming those volunteers who come in first thing in the morning would probably put some of their cars there to leave the more comfortable parking spaces for everybody else coming in. So we would probably, that would be the best use for it, I would say. Because the volunteers, they are the first ones there and they're the last ones to leave.
Okay.
After everybody's out. So when we went over to the building, that's what I suggested to the owner. I said, don't touch anything there right now. If a future plan comes around and it needs major construction, comes to a budget where major construction can be done out there, then that's a different plan, a different thing, and we can tackle it that way. But for right now, 2 cars, one can go right out through the front, the other can back out. They can still get out if they need to, and you can get like 4 parking spots out of there.
Yep.
Okay.
I was just noticing on your plan, what's my directions? The east and north perimeter seems to have a wood guardrail around the edge of the parking lot. And obviously, if you're going to push snow that way, that guardrail might be a problem, but manageable, easily solvable.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they're putting the snow somewhere now, right?
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be in lots of different places. I think as a drugstore, they probably didn't use much of that parking in the back rows because they just don't get hundreds of people there at a time. But
probably my guess.
you may well do that. Anybody else? Do you want to talk?
No,
Anybody else got concerns or
It
thoughts?
was just parking, and that was it. You touched on anything that I was concerned about.
There were a couple
Nelson?
of things I'd like to see. This doesn't show what of the site is paved. And it would be nice to know where the pavement begins and ends.
Have them
This.
labeled on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably colors
Yeah.
in or something.
Yep. All right.
We could have them like shaded in where the pavement is.
Yeah, or
To-
some boundary to the paving.
Yeah,
I'm not
for
sure
sure.
it doesn't go into the river, but it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
Yep, I got you.
Okay. And the other questions I had was, I didn't quite get your numbers when you were talking about, you talked about some different numbers as to who you have. You have 120 congregants now.
Currently, yeah.
And that seems to fit pretty easily in here. And then you said you would grow to some other number, and I didn't get what that was.
Our experience with our church is, over the years, it grows to have multiple services, and the average size right now per congregation is between 300 and 400 per service, having totaling up to 3 or 4 services on a Sunday, depending on the area that you're serving. Closer to the Boston area, out there they have more services because a lot more people go. More where I'm at, like the central area, it's a little less populated, so we're only at 2, going to 3 at some point next year. So the idea is to have the number where we could fit 300 to 400. In between that number, if we get 350, 320, or the total of 400 would be actually top notch for us. And but with the parking, figure out the parking. That's why the conceptual is great. To hear what everybody's got to. So now we got homework. We can go back and say, how do we, in order to get the best number, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Go from there.
Yeah, okay, I think we'd like to know what the forecast is.
Yeah.
And for what you're planning for the future here. The other thing I had interest in, the property is map 5D4, lot 3-1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes, it's hard to tell what it includes, but I guess it's that's the whole lot that goes down to the river, as far as that goes. The adjacent lot, that's the gas station, right? The
No, that's the old body shop, Nelson.
Oh, that's the body shop,
the
right?
body
Yeah, okay. All right, and it looks like there's a fence between you and them, so,
Yeah, there's a wooden fence that goes in there and it angles down.
yeah, okay. I had no other problems with it, Bob. I think just knowing what's paved and what is not paved would be useful.
Sure.
And also, you've got the start of a steeple, but it has, you put a steeple on it, it would really look nice. That's just a suggestion. I can't require you to put a steeple on, but
Yeah. So you did mention that you're restriping the parking spaces and maybe some paint on the signage and then freshening up some of the landscaping and things. Any specifics about what you have planned with landscaping and that sort of thing?
Well, keeping the bringing the grass areas back to life over there. Snow gets pushed, and that stuff needs a little bit of attention. Over by the entryway over there, where the signs are and stuff, it needs a little bit of attention over there. Just some real small stuff, just mulch and grass. Not really any plantings or trees or anything like that. Just really keeping up with it, freshening it up, and that's basically that.
Sprucing it up pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
okay, it could use some landscaping improvements, so
For
we'd
sure.
encourage you to do that.
Does this church operate as either Sunday school, daycare, or a regular school for children?
Oh, wow.
Does it do any of those things?
We have a kids program during
Sunday school?
service.
Okay.
That's it. Just
So-
during service. So there's no like pre-service for the kids or just a time where parents can come and drop off their kids and go do something else. It's if service is at 10, the kids will open at 9:45. You can check your kid in.
There's a kid room
Go to
somewhere?
service. Yeah. They each get a tag, and then at the end of service, you check your kid out. Or if there's a problem during service where the kid needs attention, everybody's get a tag. You get a text message on your phone or on the church screen to say your kid needs attention. And at the end of service, pick up your kid. And
If
everybody's
you lose
out
your
on their
ticket,
way.
you can't
Yeah.
get your kid back?
Yeah.
That sounds fine to me. Doing a rough count, it looks like there's about 110 parking spaces plus the handicap ones, so I don't know, whenever I count that way, I always miss some because pen goes faster than my brain. But something in that neighborhood, so if you had a couple people per car, that's easily a couple of hundred with the parking that you have. And maybe you guys have some data that shows that it's more like 3 people on average per car or something for that. I don't think our our regulations have a parking calculation for churches, does it, Pauline? Do you know?
They do. We have a religious facilities parking calculation. It's 1 space per each 3 seats or 6 linear feet of bench space.
Okay. So start with that, and then if you're short, then you're gonna be asking for a waiver of that, and if you don't, if you've made it, then you've solved the parking question in our mind.
Okay.
1 space per 3 seats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Or if you
6
have
feet.
if you have a bench, I don't know if you do benches
No, we
more.
do seats.
So it's seats, but it would be 6 feet per bench area, but 1 per 3 seats.
Okay.
And no particular calculation for any volunteers or people that are associated with the service.
Just says religious facilities, and it doesn't give any like extra for volunteer or the
It
pastor
probably all
or
works
whatever,
into that
anything like
average
that.
anyway, to make it all come out.
What I would try, what I'm thinking, conceptually, I don't know if it's gonna work out. I'm gonna try to see is, I know our volunteer team per service usually goes between 30 to 50 volunteers, because we're counting like 1 volunteer for every 6 or 7 person that comes to service. So
Okay.
I'm gonna think it's probably gonna be between 30 and 50 then. Is to maybe try to go around and work out an overflow parking for those numbers, so that they can come in the morning and we can have the full. If we're going for a 300 occupancy, we say 1 per 3, and we have 100 spaces plus the handicaps, and we'll have 300 plus the overflow for the volunteers, giving us 350. We'll meet halfway. It'll be great for us.
I think Sunday mornings are the only time where it'll be an issue, because afternoons and night times anywhere, when the diner's not really going, because they stop after lunch, there's gonna be ample parking to flow over. There are other things in that little, shopping center, but the diner is the one that chews up all the parking, and has a high demand. But night times or Sunday afternoon, Sunday evenings, there'd be whatever you'd need. But like you said, you want to be a good neighbor, and
for
a
sure.
blessing to the community. I think if you don't have enough parking spaces, don't be afraid to ask for a waiver of the parking requirement. Just explain it to us why you need. And the one thing that's sort of the deal breaker for us is you absolutely can't have anybody parking on the street, or, your overflow. If you end up having a big crowd for Christmas service or something like that, people have to know they can't illegally park, or they can't park at the diner or whatever. And if that means that they have to, I don't know, park at the grocery store and get a ride over or something, it is what it is. But that's the thing that just can't happen, is parking in the street.
Put up a sign or two just saying like, don't park on the street.
We don't even necessarily always require that. We just
Okay.
sort of ask you to police it, and if you sort of see that you got a big day for, a holiday for Easter or something, that you tap people on the shoulder and say, no, you got to do something different than that, or announce it or something like that. It generally, DW Highway doesn't really invite parking very much, so I don't think people are necessarily
You
going to
don't want to do that.
think that they're going to try it.
113
Yeah.
Better
You're-
counter than me?
just
Wasn't-
There is a child care center in that other strip,
Yeah.
and they get a lot of early morning traffic, but they're mostly weekdays. I don't think they have a issue with Sunday mornings. I don't think you'll have a conflict, but
Daycares are also extremely efficient, even with only 3 or 4 spaces that people dropping off and getting out and dropping off. You turn over those same 4 spaces 20 times, but
Yeah.
it's really fast. Maybe a few more than just 4, but they tend not to suck up parking for a long time.
I know we have to plan for like 100% capacity and what the issues would be, but with the 113 parking spots, I know the space where they're at right now, it's gonna be a year before they even start getting close to like filling up this parking spot, because it's a lot of families. So like husband,
Yep.
wife, 2 kids, some have 3, others, the grandma comes with mom, and so the parking spot where they're at now in Nashua is a lot smaller, and it's been working out. So I don't see parking being an issue with what they have right now, but I'm definitely gonna go around and do some research on the area to see what we would be able to contract, out in case maybe the body shop is closed and they have some parking spot. Can we rent from them at a certain time on Sunday?
Yeah, those are all great
afternoon?
solutions to
Something
pursue.
like that,
Yeah.
to just
Yeah.
have that on paper and say, here's a solution if this
Yeah.
comes up, when it comes.
I know that a lot of planning boards or towns approach this with planning for your worst day.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those. I don't think that a shopping mall should plan for Black Friday. Because then you pave, 3 acres, that's most of the year, 364 days not used, just so it can be used one day. But those most common days, what your, usual busy Sunday would be, plan for that. And you control some of that by how many seats you put inside. So, make it make sense.
where is your situation in Nashua? You said you had a facility in Nashua?
Yeah, it's on Daniel Webster Highway in Nashua. I don't know the exact number. I just know how to get there.
North of downtown or south, or
I'm not very familiar with Nashua, but it's right off the exit
which exit?
1.
Okay,
I
so
don't
all the
think
way in the
so.
south,
Yeah.
all the way down by the mall. Okay. All right. I don't. Sometimes we want to, go and have a look at something that seems familiar, but wouldn't see that in this case. I mean, trust whatever you tell me is going to happen for the
And
number
like
of people that are coming.
end of year, so you guys know. So there's I think now 9 total regional churches here, Laguna churches, and at the end of the year, it's just everybody gets together. So there's no like end of year festivities happening at the church. Biggest days would really be Easter, and like Mother's Day is a big day where everybody comes in. So those are the days that probably be our busiest days, but like Christmas and New Year's probably not as busy because everybody gets together for like a regional
I
thing.
see.
And then we would rent like, a place with 3,000 seats so that everybody from all the 7 or 8 congregations can come and have like a multi-day event.
Cool, that's neat. We've got a lot of different places that have a significant amount of parking, but then they have arrangements to get more. Probably the most well-known is Anheuser-Busch does, Rib Fest and stuff like that, and they always make arrangements with all of the area businesses and industrial locations to use their overflow parking. And not suggesting that you should go down to Elbit to use their parking because it's too far away, but that's something we're used to. I think the Common Man's got arrangements to do parking at the insurance company across the street. A few other entities like that. So we're open to it. Just make an arrangement, and whatever that arrangement has to be needs to be relatively long-term and reliable, so that it doesn't, like, when you need it, they say, well, we don't like this anymore, go away. So,
It becomes part of the site plan,
yep.
the approved plan.
So, with that in mind, I don't need to take any more of your time unless you need us to. I think it's a pretty strong proposal, a good idea. You sort out some parking, you tell us a little bit more about a couple of the other details, maybe show us a pretty picture of what your sign's going to look like, and you'll sail through, I think. I can't see any reason to oppose it.
Sounds good.
So.
Perfect.
All right. Also, you'll have lots of interactions with staff. They're usually the ones that are crawling through our regulations and helping you with parking calculations and all of that. So certainly take their advice if they tell you there's things that you need to do or there's something you didn't quite meet the standard for. Work around that and get that solved. We don't necessarily always review the regulations in the same way that they do, but for the most part, we follow their advice when they present us a thing and they say, we don't think this meets the standard. We'll listen to you, tell us why you think it does, but it's much better if you're aligned with their review of things.
For sure.
Because there isn't really much going on the outside, I don't think that there's peer review or any that kind of thing. So that'll save you some time and some money.
It's all money, yeah.
All right. If there's nothing else you need from us, normally we'd let the public weigh in, but you didn't bring any. Brian doesn't count.
Anything to weigh in, Brian?
He's part of the team. No, if you do want to weigh in, certainly you can. Otherwise, whenever you're ready to come forward, we'll look forward to seeing you.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, item 4 on our agenda is Planning and Zoning Administrator's Report and discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern. Colleen, do we have a report?
We didn't issue any administrative approvals since the last meeting. I don't think we've issued one since the beginning of January. So it's been pretty quiet. Town council, I believe, just approved adjustments to the zoning board fees. We obviously did our planning board fees. And that's really it in our department.
All right, does anybody have any questions for staff?
No, sir.
What's the planning going forward for the master plan? I
That is a
think
good question.
coming to that time of year.
Yeah, it is that time of year. I believe Robert has it budgeted, or there's a way to get it paid for. Robert would probably be the best person to ask about that question. I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I think
hopefully
the-
soon.
Okay, please do. Yeah.
That's what I remember. I think we asked the same question a month or two ago to get an update, and it's been part of the capital improvement plan, which even though it isn't capital, so the funding should be there. It's a matter of going through the process we did last time, where we seek out RFPs and pick a vendor and decide who to work
Yeah.
with and get going, and then it's up to us to figure out the progress, how to schedule meetings and whatever we want to do with people. But yeah, it's probably time to get it moving.
Yeah.
I just brought it up.
No, it's a
to
good
keep
question,
thinking
Nelson.
about it.
It's a
Yeah.
great question.
Well, even if the funding sort of falls into next fiscal year, which starts whenever in the fall or late summer or something, it still leaves us in a place where we could start seeking bidders
Mhm.
and maybe should go through. It took a month or 2 or 3 to even pick bidders because we had 5 or 6 proposals and we narrowed it down and interviewed a couple companies, and we were between National Regional Planning Commission and VHB, and ultimately we picked VHB to do it. Now, none of the people that we used to know at VHB are still at VHB. They're all
It's
scattered
a
to the
whole
wind.
new game.
It's fresh.
Anyway, figuring out, who would be a consultant for us would be an interesting thing. So, any other other items of concern? The only on my mind is just using the microphone for a minute in case anybody at home is watching to say we've got lots of vacant seats at our board as alternates and as full-time members. If you're interested, come find out more about it. It is a very interesting opportunity to volunteer and know about stuff that's going on in town.
Agreed.
And if you have questions about it, or you just want to know what it's like, feel free to reach out to me or the department or literally any of us. We'll all tell you about it. So definitely want to fill up some of our empty seats. We've got item 5 on our agenda is the minutes of February 4th, 2025. What say you?
Move to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Nice. Motion and a second. Relatively short meetings. All we did was a couple of small things. If there's no discussion items or edits to the minutes, then all in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 4-0-0 to approve the minutes. Item 6 on our agenda is to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, that's the church. Motion and a second, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 4-0-0. We are officially adjourned. Don't forget to turn your microphone.